সকাল দুপুর সন্ধ্যা রাতে তোমার আমার কথা হবে রিল্যাক্স রেডিও বাংলায়, রিল্যাক্স রেডিও বাংলা।
রিল্যাক্স রেডিও বাংলা, সারাদিন সারাক্ষণ।
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for joining me on Our Voice with Amina, where there's no stigma, no shame. Asha kori shob bala asoin, shusto asoin. Today, we're bringing to you a very important topic, and it is on lifelong education. So, I school topic amra roilo lifelong education. The education amra kono boyosh lageni na amra young age khali lekha pora kortam. লাইক আমরা এই যে ইয়াল্লে লেখাপড়া করলে আমরা কেতা শরম থাকেনি, একটা স্টিগমা থাকেনি একটা লইয়া। So what does it mean? How can we continue educating ourselves and the people around us? Education লেখাপড়া খালি ইয়াং মানুষের লাগি নিনা, আমরা obviously elders যারা আছেন তারা লাগিও can they go back to studying? আর তারা যদি লেখাপড়া করেন তে আমরা তারারে লইয়া ডংডাং করিনি আসিনি। And লেখাপড়া খালি just খালি doctor, teacher and barrister রইতে লাগেনি. Are there any other forms of education? So আমার লগে আইজ আসইন a very special guest. That's Barrister Rizwan Hussain. So some of you might be familiar with him, but tan লগে মাত পারাগে আমরা একটা ছোট intro break লইয়াই. So please stay with us. Control room, are you gonna take an intro break?
সকাল দুপুর সন্ধ্যা রাতে তোমার আমার কথা হবে রিল্যাক্স রেডিও বাংলায়, রিল্যাক্স রেডিও বাংলা।
রিল্যাক্স রেডিও বাংলা, সারাদিন সারাক্ষণ।
Welcome back, my dear listeners and viewers. So আমার লগে আইজ আছেন my very special guest, Barrister Rizwan Hussain. So আপনারা কেউ familiar থাকতে পারবা because he's quite a known name and a face. You're probably familiar with him from TV1 and all the other channels that we have. So Rizwan, welcome to the show. Assalamu alaikum. How are you today?
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for having me. Kemon acho?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. It's a lovely day out there, and we're stuck here. You're in the studio. I'm in my office. So let's
Okay.
enjoy this moment, inshallah.
Yes, of course. So can you give us some insight into your background? I know you've got so many, different kind of things that you've done, your experiences, your knowledge. I can't list it all, so I don't want to miss anything either. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah, it's kind of strange when you have to introduce yourself, but in a nutshell, I'm going to cut it down for you. So you introduced me as Barrister Rizwan Hussain. That was my main academic qualifications many years ago. But then I also worked as a law lecturer. To some, it may come as a surprise. I actually worked as a policeman for a brief period of time. And then, like you, I started my media career in radio. This is going 25 years ago. And then obviously I moved on to television, and the rest of the story perhaps is known to everybody. That's us in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, so you're a host, you're a presenter, you're a barrister, you're a teacher, you're a lecturer. And also on this very important topic, you've continued your educational experience and knowledge. And do you want to give us some insight into that?
Yeah, I've always felt that education isn't something that needs to be limited. You know what? The reason I became a barrister is not because I wanted to be a barrister, by the way. I actually
Oh,
never wanted to
you
be
just fell
a
into it.
barrister. I remember, no, it wasn't even like that. I remember we're three brothers, and my dad, when we were quite young, he lined us up and then said to my elder brother, "You are going to be a doctor." He ended up being a doctor. He said to the middle one, "You're going to be either in, business or engineering." He became a business lecturer. And then he looked at me and he said, "You're going to be a barrister. I don't want to hear anything else." And that was his way of motivating us. And I think that was their dream. So all three brothers, we ended up doing exactly what my father told us that this is what he wanted us to be. And then he turned to my two sisters, the younger ones, and he said to both of them, "You two, I want it nice and easy. I want you to be teachers." Well, it's not really an easy profession, I must say, but they also ended up being teachers. So
Wow.
for me, it was more about fulfilling my father's dream to become a barrister. So I did that, and then after I did that, and in the course of doing that, I realized that am I really interested in this topic? And then I thought, well, may as well do it. I then finished that and decided I want to try out teaching law. So I then went back to university, and then I did a postgraduate in education. And
Okay.
then I lectured in law for 15 years. That I very much enjoyed. Uh,
Mm.
at the same time as I continued my practice in law at that time. And then I took an interest in media. So I did various little courses on media, this, that.
Okay.
Very recently now, and this is, I'm not going to tell my age here live on radio. I don't think so. But just so that you kind of get some inkling, I did the barrister's qualification and course in 1996. So some of our listeners weren't probably even born at that time. But so
Wow.
very recently, just going back about 6 months ago, I've gone back to university again, and I said to my wife, "This is my last time. I promise you. Yeah, enough is enough." So I've just started my PhD in artificial intelligence
Oh,
and the
wow.
justice system. So it's the way the future is going with artificial intelligence pretty much taking over everything. But yeah, so I'm back in education. So at the moment, I'm still working,
Mhm.
but I'm also a student. So
Okay.
back to education once again.
Once again, well, we are on the topic of lifelong education, and clearly you're a prime example and inspiration for many, I suppose. So what does lifelong education mean to you then?
Okay, what does lifelong education? Well, before that, my wife actually did ask me, "Why do you want to do a PhD?" And
Yeah.
I then I got stuck there, and I thought, "Yeah, why do I want to do a PhD? It's going to take me 3 to 4 years and a lot of hard work to get there." And I said, "Actually, I don't mind being called Doctor Barrister Rizwan Hussain," and that's the only reason I could come up with. But
That's
no,
quite twisted.
but the reality is, I felt that
Yeah.
there was still a bit of ammunition left in terms of wanting to seek knowledge. So coming back to your question, why lifelong education? Well, two reasons. One, if we take a theological approach,
Mm.
Islamically, it is said that one should seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. Yeah.
Yes.
And in this country, um, going back about 20 years, the government came out with with the strap line that is used a lot now, which is lifelong education, and it opened up in a big way, saying that education wasn't limited to youngsters and GCSEs, A level, and university. They wanted everybody to have an opportunity. So we live in a country
Mhm.
where doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter whether you went to, even to school as a youngster,
Mhm.
there's opportunities there for you. So whether we're actually taking those opportunities is a different question altogether.
Mm. Okay. And why is it important then that we continue with lifelong education?
It's important for I want to kind of address this in a different way. A lot of people didn't get that opportunity. Now,
Mhm.
who we're talking about? We're talking about a lot of three categories of people. One is our parents didn't get that opportunity.
Mhm.
They sacrificed their entire life looking after us and making sure that we got the opportunity
Yeah.
and we achieved our objects. But that opportunity is still there for them. So we could perhaps even explore
Mhm.
that. Number two is a lot of people, for example, people who gave up their education because they got married and they had children. Their children are now growing up. So
Mhm.
there's an opportunity for them as well to be able
Mhm.
to go back to it. And thirdly, of course, uh, in modern times, remember there was a time when if you wanted to get a degree, if you wanted to get a diploma or
Yeah.
to do some training, you'd have to leave the house and go to an institute and
Yes.
sit there in class. and
Yeah.
now you can do it sitting at home. So
At
the
home
opportunity
in the comfort of
is
your pajamas.
huge. Yeah, exactly. You could be joining a course that's taking place in North America, yeah,
Absolutely. Yep.
and you won't even have to buy a plane ticket. So the opportunities now are huge compared to what existed 20, 25 years ago.
Mm. I agree. And especially since COVID, I think it's just fast forwarded that whole process. Because even like before COVID, when you hear online learning, people used to kind of look down at it like, oh, what's online learning? That's not real learning. But after COVID, people have gone off. And I say people, I mean, I did most of my degree online, and I never saw the face of, the university until I graduated. So it was all pretty much online. And yes, they are real qualifications. They're not just
Well, I
online.
think I mean, most courses now offer this hybrid kind of
Mm,
way of taking part. You can either go in person, and I kind of prefer going in person. I would, uh, having been a teacher, I don't know how I would deal with teaching to a camera rather than teaching to human beings, but they've adapted to it. You're right, and COVID played a very big part in catapulting that forward
yeah,
into the era that we live in now.
yeah. And I suppose it kind of ties back into, or would it tie back into your PhD where you're studying artificial intelligence? Is that what we're kind
Yeah.
of heading towards with cameras and, Zoom and Teams and all of that?
Well, what I'm actually researching into, again, this is a different topic altogether, is how in the future, like currently jury members are chosen from general members of the public. Well, these jury members could be artificial intelligence individuals, right? Made up of all those characteristics. You don't actually have any human element in it.
Oh my
So,
God.
but that's a completely different topic altogether. But one of the things I did want to talk about is that, look, our parents, they sacrificed everything for us
Mm,
so that we could achieve our dreams. And if you think about it, a lot of our parents probably, never saw the inside of a university except on the graduation day. Yeah,
yes. Yep.
never quite experienced that. And I remember just last year, or well, actually quite a few years ago now, where I've been nagging at my mum, I want you to take driving lessons. And she said,
Wow.
what, at this age? Why am I going to take driving lessons? Oh, who do
Yeah.
I need to drive her? And I said, well, that's not the issue. I want you to be able to go out there and achieve something for yourself.
Self.
Yeah, because
Mm,
your entire life's gone behind us. You
mm,
haven't been able to do anything that you've wanted to do. I don't even know what their dreams were, other than the fact that they wanted us to be successful. Can you imagine that? We
absolutely.
have multiple dreams. Yeah, and there's no
Yeah.
end to our dreams. But their dream was very singular, and that was to see
Mm,
us successful. So one of the things I would like to see happening in the future is us actually encouraging our parents. Hey, mum, hey, dad, do you want to do this course? And they might
mm.
say, well, are you crazy? At
Yeah.
my age,
At
what am
my
I going to do? But then you need to introduce them to, look, it's available on Zoom. It's available in your language if you want it to be.
mm,
Yeah.
yep.
A lot of elders, they want to learn the Quran. But
Yes.
unfortunately, the mosques only recently have started to cater for adult lessons, but everything's online. So
Mm,
I would like to see, inshallah, in the future that we are giving that back to our parents and saying, look, don't be embarrassed.
yeah.
If you want to do something, let me set it up for you
Mm,
and teach them Zoom. And,
mm,
one thing interesting in our previous conversation in prep for this program was that how many of our parents, we walk around with these smartphones all the time. How
yep.
many times have we sat down with them and taught them how to use the smartphone to be
Yes.
able to access YouTube videos, Zoom? There's a world of education out there. So I'm not just talking about going back to university or going back to college. I'm talking about giving our parents or those who didn't have an opportunity, maybe our sister-in-law or brother-in-law who's only dedicated their life to the
Yeah.
family and the children, to do something for themselves and to feel that, hey, I achieved something that,
Mm,
it might be a shock to some of our parents. Wow, a certificate in my name. They've
yes.
seen their kids' certificates, but something for themselves.
For
So
themselves.
that
Yeah.
I'd like to see, you know, uh, come forth. And I also know that you yourself went back to education recently. You did a master. No, so you did um,
Bachelor's.
a bachelor's degree.
Yes.
Um,
I thought
Despite
I
having
missed
a family of your own and working full time, you still managed to do it.
I did. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Obviously, when my friends were in university, I was already at work and, kind of living the adult life. But I went back late. I was what, 28, 29 when I went back. And, I did feel out of place. Like everyone's already done it. They've all settled down. And here I am going back to university. And there was this almost like a sort of a stigma with it, which was, oh, at that age, you're going to go back to university. Oh, hold on, but you've got children or you've got a family. You work full time. How many things are you going to do in one go? You're going to, you spread yourself so thin, you're not going to be able to achieve anything afterwards. So my thing was, I'm going to try and balance what I can. Push comes to shove. Okay, I'm not a quitter, but there is always the option to quit. If I see it's really taking its toll on me, I will. But somehow you
I'm going
push.
to turn this interview around for a second. I'm going to ask you a question. Did you have people saying to you, why are you doing this? You should be
Yeah,
focusing on your children. You should be focusing on your family, right?
absolutely. And what the other thing that people kept saying was, you've already got a good job. People go to university to get a good job. So why would you go back to university to do this? Now, my thing was, first of all, it's a self-fulfillment and, wanting to achieve something for myself. And also to show family and friends that no matter what's going on in your life, you can still achieve it. And then the other thing was that qualification was almost like the backup to my experience. So I wasn't just going off and doing a law degree or a medicine degree or something. My degree was actually related to my job. Whereas I know some of my friends went to uni, got the degree, and they were like, nah, that's not for me. But that degree was almost like useless to them in that sense because they haven't been able to pursue
But
that line.
here's the important point. Whether you actually use that degree for something or not isn't important.
Mm,
The fact that you experience that whole educational process
yes,
is in itself is a massive learning. So,
learn.
people often ask, well, what are you going to do with that degree? Well, it doesn't matter what I do with the degree.
Yeah,
It's the fact that, I want to learn it, even out of a passion. I want to share something quick. I'm not sure whether you have to go on a break very soon, but
yes.
um, I want to share something quick. I mean, as a lecturer, lectured on a adult education course for many, many years. The course
Hmm.
was called Access to Law. And this course was designed for people who didn't have GCSEs, who didn't have A levels. Many
Yeah,
were adults and family people who wanted to get onto a university course. So it was a stepping stone course. It was a 1-year course.
right.
My eldest student was 67. Yeah.
Wow.
67 years old. My youngest student was about 22, yeah, returning to education. And the most beautiful two students I had, I have to tell you, was a mother and daughter. Now, let me tell you
Wow.
the story. The daughter had already done her degree. And because of the experience that she had at university, and this is an Asian family we're talking about, she
Okay.
said to her mum, Mum, I want you to take a chance to go to college. And the mum turned around and said, Are you crazy? What are people going to think? Me at my age going to college. So the daughter actually said to the mother, if you take this course, I will take this course with you.
With
So
you.
we'll go together. Yeah.
Oh,
And they did. They both did the course together, mother and daughter. She didn't even need to do the course, but she did it just to give her mother that encouragement.
oh,
And these two students of mine, they were the highest scoring students that year.
oh,
They
wow.
finished the course with distinctions. The mother then actually did progress on to doing a law degree, even though she was in
Wow.
a late 50s. But
That's amazing.
why I'm telling you this story is that
Mhm.
if some of our parents are thinking, it's
After excessive research and bad experiences, he finally found out Sure Secure, the best CCTV security service systems provider. They have experience over 15 years long. They provide quality and professional security installations, from intruder alarms to CCTV systems, in addition to access control. Their products are of the highest quality, using up-to-date technology equipment range. Their CCTV range allows for live viewing, playback, and the ability to digitally zoom using high-definition images. The CCTV images can be monitored in crystal clear Full HD 1080p and 4K quality with a smartphone, tablet, desktop computer, or even your laptop. With Sure Secure, now Bob can check up on his properties remotely from anywhere in the world. After each installation, they make sure that you are fully trained in order to use the equipment and respond quickly to any fault. Whether you're looking for domestic, commercial, or industrial services, Sure Secure will design and build the perfect security system for all your needs.
I'm so sorry you got cut off there.
That's okay. That was a very interesting advert in any case. So yeah, the point I was making is that I would love to see some of our Bangladeshi brothers and sisters encourage their parents in that way, and if
Mm,
necessary, do a course with your mum, even if it's a short 6-week course, and
mm,
see the effect that it has on them. The fact that they were able to do something themselves. You gave them that confidence. You gave them that opportunity that otherwise they would never even dream of. And I'd love to hear these stories where a mother and a daughter from the Bengali community go off and do a degree together. Wow,
that's
this
amazing.
is what we need, and this is why lifelong education is so important. It's not just for us; it's for our parents. It's for those who didn't get that opportunity. Give them
Mm,
that chance
mm,
and see them benefit from it. They don't have to make a career of it,
yeah.
but the and also one of the things that I do want to mention is that the mental stimulus in
Yes,
education is something that will help even our elderly parents. Because
definitely. Hmm.
one of the things that affects them most now, I mean, they may not talk about it, is boredom. It's about, uh,
Yeah.
you know, how many of our Bangladeshi parents have a hobby?
Not
Seriously,
many. Not many.
okay?
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the opportunity to have a hobby.
No, they didn't
Yeah,
have time. They were too busy feeding the family, working day and night.
exactly. And the
Yeah.
closest thing that they got to a hobby was maybe a bit of gardening. Yeah.
Yes.
If they had a bit of a patch at the back, they would do a bit of gardening. But even then, why not do a little bit of a gardening course with them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
that's what I was gonna
give it.
come on to, because like when we look at education, we always think, oh, education is going to college or it's going to university, and then it's about employability. But it doesn't always have to be about being employed. I suppose some of it is for your own personal development. And so kind of like for your personal life, in the sense that, even if it is gardening, you understand the science behind it. Oh, why does my plant have to face a certain way for it to grow the best? Or some plants need lots of water and some don't need so much. Why? So just understanding concepts and things to just help you out in your own, I'm not saying go and get a degree in gardening, but you can do a short course and whatever. So it's not always about employability. It can support your hobbies, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it doesn't have to, I mean, I can understand how a 3-year course or a 2-year course or even a 1-year course might be daunting
Don't do
for parents. But there's so many short courses, there's so many things that they can learn if given that opportunity. And not just the opportunity, if you as the children give them that confidence. Hey, mum, you can do this, and I'm going to do it with you, just so that we get to spend a bit of time with them as well. You see, a
Yes.
lot of the time that doesn't happen. You know,
It's amazing though when
uh,
you give them that opportunity. So like I know when my mom learned how to use Zoom, so she was learning how to read and write, recite Arabic and the Quran and things like that. And when she figured out Zoom, she's on it now all by herself, and she's on every single class she can possibly find, and she's so happy doing it. And the fact that she can do it independently, she could be anywhere. She's gardening while she's listening to, recitation, and she's listening to someone teaching, and we're like, "Whoa, mom's like more hip than we are."
you need to get some fancy earphones for her as
That's
well.
what we
You
were
know,
saying. Oh, we'd never
yeah.
get her. She'd be in her own world, and we'd be like calling out to her, and she won't even know that we're there. She's gone.
But
She's
that,
already
but that's
gone.
an example. That's an example of how, because you taught her how to use Zoom and
Mhm.
how to use YouTube, she's benefited from it. So
Yes.
there's always a benefit to education. There's always a positive side to it. And most importantly, I'm going to go off on a tangent a little bit.
Yeah.
For younger people, even if they finished university, a lot of people say, "Oh, degree's done, khalas,
Mm,
uh, move on, get a job."
mm.
And a lot of the youngsters are actually ending up in careers that they probably didn't want to be in
What?
the first place. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'll tell you what I wanted to be on a serious level. If anybody was to ask me, when I was going to university at the age of 18, and I had a choice because I only did what my father would really wanted to, and I'm grateful. I don't regret studying law whatsoever because I think it's given me um, certain skills that I've utilized later in teaching, in being a television presenter,
Mhm.
persuasive argument, articulation. I wouldn't have learned all of that if I didn't do law. So I'm grateful to my
Mm.
father for directing in that way. But if I had a choice, I
Mhm.
wanted to be Indiana Jones when I was 18. I'm being absolutely serious because I
Right.
wanted to do archaeology, yeah,
Right. Okay.
and be a teacher, just like Indiana Jones would go on an archaeological expedition and then come back and be a university professor. So that's if anybody was to ask me. And then I think that evolved after a few years. And then I wanted to be an actor. So I wanted to do a course in performing arts. Um,
Okay.
but of course, a mention of that would of course
Just keep.
inspire backhander back in the days. So that didn't go too far. Also, but what I did do after all my formal education was finished, and you kind of satisfied that, then they're not so kind of restraining you because
Yeah, because you've
because what
achieved.
they wanted us to do, you've
Yeah.
laid your foundation, so they're confident at least you'll be able to do something, whatever it is in life.
Yes.
I then went on to learn music.
Mhm.
Um, Now, for some people, this might come across as one way, isn't that haram? Isn't that? Let me explain one thing. I didn't learn music in order to perform music, though that consequentially happened at one point. But I learned it because it was a discipline.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
people underestimate those who can play an instrument at a professional level. It takes a huge amount of dedication,
Right.
discipline,
Mhm.
focus, and investment of time. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, to learn a new skill, that's what it is about. Whether it's learning a new language, whether it's learning a new skill or learning an instrument, the
Yeah.
the theory is exactly the same. So the reason I did it because I wanted to hone in and see whether I had that level of discipline to achieve what for me was an
Mhm.
impossible task, but
Yes.
later became a something that was second nature to me.
Right. So you've always had that creative flow, I suppose, somewhere under all those law books.
I think for me it's always you have to have a thirst for knowledge. You have to have a thirst for learning. Many people know who've watched me on television. I actually learned the Bangla language in 6 months. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When I started presenting on television, those of you who remember me from 15, 17 years ago on television, um, I couldn't string a full sentence together. So my producer used to be saying something in my ear, which I would then repeat.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
now this isn't just any standard Bangla. টেলিভিশনে কথা বলতে হলে বাংলাটা অন্য একটা লেভেলে বাংলা বলতে হবে। এটা
Yes.
মানে সাধারণ ক্যাজুয়াল ইনফর্মাল বাংলায় হবে না, right? So
Mhm.
I thought to myself, look, I'm in the deep end now. So what do I do? And this is what I did. I spent 6 months reading old Bangla newspapers,
Oh, wow.
Ittifaq, Prothom Alo,
Wow.
and all of that kind of stuff. And I also spent 6 months, sadly, watching Kolkata dramas. The reason the reason I watched Kolkata dramas because the purest form of Bangla is from Kolkata. So, but it was a challenge for me. But
Mm,
Alhamdulillah, 6 মাসের মধ্যে
mhm.
মোটামুটি একটা লেভেলে চলে আসছি যে উপস্থাপনা করা সম্ভব হবে।
Mhm.
But that is because I tried,
You tried.
and this is what it's about. It's about having that thirst for knowledge,
Did you
and not
find that
saying
people were laughing at you and, when you try and string a sentence together, they'd be like, "Oh my God, what the hell is he saying?"
it,
Like
it was strange. My producers used to laugh at me. Yeah, I
you
could
could hear
hear
them
them
in
in
your
the
ear.
control room saying, "আরে ও কি বলে ফেললো?" Yeah, কি বলছে?
Love it.
Yeah, and and I'm thinking, আর কি করবো? এখন just carry on.
Mhm.
হবার হবে. But
That didn't
the
deter
fact
you
is,
though.
no, no. So look, so coming back to the main topic, whenever people think of going back to education, when people think of when we try to encourage our parents to go back to education, there will be some people who will try to pull you back.
Yes.
Yeah, who will laugh at you, who will mock you, but put them to one side. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it
Mm,
doesn't matter what people think.
mm,
You have to be happy with yourself, and if your own children give you that confidence, if your own family support you, it doesn't
mm,
matter what anybody else thinks. If your husband supports you, if your wife supports you,
mm.
alas, you don't need anything
What
else.
if you don't have that support and you're thriving to learn and go back into education? Like, what would you advise someone to do then?
Well, if but going back to your situation, you didn't exactly have the support of everybody.
No.
Yeah. But you soldiered on. Yeah. My advice is soldier on, you know,
Mm.
prove them wrong. But, you didn't have everybody's support, but everybody attended your graduation,
Yes.
right? Those
Yes.
people, even the detractors turned up for the photo op. So, it
No, I
has
had
to be
loads of
said.
people watching online. Those that didn't get a ticket were watching online.
Yeah, exactly. So, ultimately they'll come round to it, but you will have people who will pull you back. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, look, I started my radio career in the Punjabi language. I was actually more
Oh
fluent
my
in
God.
the Punjabi and Hindi language than I was in Bangla. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, the funniest thing was when I first started on Channel S television, a Bengali channel.
Mm.
Um, a lot of people said, "Oh, ছেলেটা মুসলমান হয়ে গেছে." Yeah,
Oh, oh
because
my God.
they thought they thought I had reverted. Because many people thought I was Hindu Punjabi or something because
Yeah,
my
yeah,
fluency in Punjabi
yeah.
and all that. They thought, "Oh, ছেলেটা দেখলাম হঠাৎ করে um, মুসলমান হয়ে গেছে এবং বাংলা শিখতেছে." Yeah, so yeah, so
Love it.
you will face all of that, but you just got to soldier on. You've got to stay focused and make best of the situation.
Right. So before we tackle the next question, we're going to go on a quick break and we shall be back soon.
A professional logo is very important for your business because a logo expresses the company's identity. If the logo is not meaningful and attractive, then it is impossible for your company to provide information about your company services to the targeting customers. Our company is the only company that can offer you quality, affordable, professional logos at the lowest prices. So without delay, create a professional logo for your company today.
Welcome back, viewers and our dear listeners. So we were talking about lifelong education with Rizwan Hussain, Barrister Rizwan Hussain. I have to say that because that's the only way I know. That's what's embedded
Dear,
in my
dear, dear.
mind.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just maybe we'll do the next radio interview in 4 years' time. You can change that to Doctor Rizwan Hussain.
Oh, you
Yeah,
love that. Dr. Barrister Rizwan Hussain, get it right.
yeah, yeah. No, I sometimes I wonder what my motivation for doing a PhD is, to be honest. But having said that, I was just looking at the questions that you had sent me for this program.
Mhm.
Are we even still on track with what
Well,
we're
more or
actually
less,
talking about?
yeah. So,
Because
um,
there's one thing I wanted to add. Because when people talk about education, they
mhm.
think academic only. I want to kind of talk a little bit about when we come to our parents. They may not want to be reading books and writing
Oh yeah.
essays.
Mhm.
There's a lot of skills kind of training that they can take on. I'll give you an example. A lot of our youngsters, they've gotten into arts and crafts recently, creation
Oh
of
yeah.
certain things and opening their own shop on Etsy and etc. and selling
Mhm.
through there. Um, my mother, with many, many mothers across the country from Bangladeshi heritage, used to work from home on a sewing machine. A lot of people will be able to say, "Ah, yes, I remember," because my earliest memories
Mhm.
was waking up to the kind of the sound of the
Sewing
machine.
machine
Yes,
sound.
yeah. And not only did she work from home, but she also taught about 40 other women in the town. She was
Oh,
the trainer.
okay.
So whenever somebody wanted to get into that work, they would come to my mum and they would learn
Okay.
uh, to how to use the sewing machine, overlicking, overlocking even, and that kind of stuff. So she spent a lot of her life, and we used to see a lot of people used to come just to learn from her.
Wow.
Yeah. So they, a lot of our parents have this inherent artistic talent that never got materialized. Yeah.
Of course.
So can you imagine putting them on a course which, teaches them some kind of artistic skill, whether it's making garments, whether it's
Mm,
knitting, whether it's, you know, painting vases or whatever it is.
mm,
It's still
mm.
something to focus on and occupy their minds with, and it's
Yes.
still an education. You've learned something that somebody else
Someone
cannot
else has
do.
done.
Yeah.
Recently, what I've been
So
seeing is a lot of our kind of like mums and aunties and stuff like they're on YouTube doing cooking shows, which is really
yes, yeah,
useful because they're all very good cooks,
brilliant.
and and you see it and you think, oh, you know what, this is really good. They found something that they really enjoy, they're good at, and then they've like got like thousands of followers, and you're like, you know what, they're doing really well. It's amazing that they've found this the good use of technology. Basically, it's not just technology can be used for good and bad, but they found that use in it. And I give it to the kids or whoever it is that's teaching them how to use it. Feel proud that you've taught them something.
There is a lot of kind of untapped talent amongst the. I'll tell you something. I do not believe for 1 minute that there isn't some kind of amazing painter, somebody who can really paint beautiful art in our community who's probably somebody's mother or somebody's
Mm,
father,
mhm.
but it never got tapped into.
No,
Never
no.
ever got. And the reason I say that, I remember one of my earliest memories as a child was that in those days in the kitchen, the walls didn't used to be tiled. I'm talking about in the 80s now. So there used to be kind of a blank painted wall, and there was a beautiful flower that was drawn on the kitchen wall. And my mum had actually
Mhm.
done that because it was her way of decorating the wall. And maybe that was her passion. Yeah.
Mm.
But unfortunately, she never ever got a chance to take that any further.
Any further?
Yeah. And I'm quite sure that in our Bengali community, there's probably some of our mothers probably have the most amazing talent
Of
that
course.
unfortunately never got a chance to breathe.
No, and I suppose in their time they didn't really have the opportunities that we have, which is first of all language, second of all
Yes.
is the technology. Like we can make something and literally take a photo and, like you say, put it on Etsy or Facebook even just to show off your nice work. But they didn't have that, and actually maybe us now as children we can still see that they've got those talents and those skills. Why don't we post it for them? We have a joke within our family,
Absolutely.
like, if our aunties had Facebook, they'd be on it all day, posting stuff on there. Like, literally, they don't
Yeah.
get off WhatsApp already. So, could you imagine giving them Facebook? It would be horrendous. We'd never see them again. But as children,
Yeah.
really, all jokes aside, we can, publish their work, their talents for them. And we should. So how would you say we motivate our friends or family or even our parents? Sometimes like they're like, no, I'm too old for this, I'm past that point now, or people are going to laugh at me. More so like our stay at home moms, where they've dedicated their whole life to their family, to their friend, their husbands even, where like they have this issue with stigma and shame of going back. People will say, oh, buroya এখন লেখাপড়া করা, how can they overcome that, like from a personal point of view?
Well, look, the starting point is, and I say this to everybody who's listening, let's start by even asking them one simple question that, Mom, Dad, if you had an opportunity
Hmm.
to learn something
Hmm.
or to do something that you often thought about when you were a lot younger and when you arrived in this country but never got the chance, what would that be?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think any of or many of us have even had that conversation
No.
first to actually ask them. So, mum, dad, or to the sister-in-law or to a brother-in-law or somebody who's really not had that chance to do something. It
Chance. Yeah.
doesn't have to be just parents. So, if you had that chance, what would it be? Yeah.
Mm.
That's a starting point to open that conversation. Yeah.
Yes.
Because that conversation itself is telling me, actually, for the first time in my life, somebody's asked me what I would have wanted to do.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how huge that is? Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then that conversation can evolve into, oh, when I was a youngster, I really kind of was into this or was into that, or I used to enjoy painting, or I used to enjoy making clothes, and I used to draw
Mm.
these designs or whatever it is. Yeah.
Mm.
And then it's our job to go and find something that probably um, matches whatever that is, and then encouraging them and maybe even holding their hand. Remember, the first time you went to school, your mother or your
Mhm.
father held your hand and
Mhm.
took you to school, right? You didn't
Yes.
go on your own. Yeah.
No, they dragged me to school.
uh,
I'm joking.
okay. Either way, they held your hand, because
Yeah.
that's necessary when you're dragged as well. So if necessary, we hold their hand, metaphorically speaking, as well, and encourage them, give them that confidence, and dip into that kind of area of interest that they've expressed.
Mm.
And that would be a starting point for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, definitely. So when we talk about education, and we kind of touched on this, that we're always talking about going back to college, university, and now we're talking about, there's online, or you can also there's self-taught study as well, right? So when we're
Absolutely.
saying looking at if you're watching a YouTube video, you might be learning something from that. So going back to kind of like cooking and gardening, I know my mom's picked up loads of tips on gardening from just someone who's gardening and posting the videos. So that's self-taught, but sometimes they also find that embarrassment to say that, oh, by the way, I've learned this from YouTube, or so and so posted this and this is where I got it from. Why is it that in our community that there's such like stigma and shame around saying to somebody that I've learned something new?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the first thing that we have to address here is that it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. Yeah. If
Mm.
you, as a son or a daughter or a brother or a sister, give them that confidence that, hey, look, I'm on your side. I'm supporting you. I think it's brilliant. I
Mm.
think it's amazing that you want to do this. That will be enough for them. Yeah.
Okay.
If you want, nobody needs to know. Yeah. Nobody's going
Mm.
to know. Yeah. So
Mm.
remember, I said the first thing was to open that conversation. The
Yeah.
second thing is to facilitate that opportunity. It's all good and well and saying, oh, mum, why don't you do this course? And then she never gets the time to do it. Yeah.
Mm.
Because she's busy looking after our children or her
Yes.
own children, or she's cooking. The second thing is to facilitate, whether it's for your husband or for your wife. I'll give you an example. My wife, she studied Alimiya.
Hmm.
So her background is in Islamic sciences. So that was her line of study,
Uh-huh.
to kind of progress in Islamic sciences. Now I've been recently telling her, so look, alhamdulillah, you did what was your interest there.
Hmm.
What are you thinking about a career in the future? And she expressed that she has an interest in teaching. So I
Oh,
said, look, whenever it's needed, I will look after the children.
wow. Hmm.
I'll cook, but you do this course. She started a course last September,
How much?
which is, over the next few years, we'll work towards getting a teaching qualification.
Mm.
So that when I'm talking about facilitating, it's
Hmm.
all good and well saying, "Hey, why don't you do this?" But then they never get a chance to do it.
Do it.
Husbands need to give their wife that opportunity. Wives perhaps need to give their husbands that opportunity. You
Yes.
know, it works both
Both
ways.
ways.
Children need to give their parents that opportunity and say, "Look, if you can spare 2 hours, I'll do what you do in those 2 hours. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Hmm.
you please sit at that laptop or take a walk down to the college and do this. I'll support you."
Yeah.
That's the second thing, because when we talk about barriers to education for that genre of people, like some brothers, sisters,
Hmm.
wife, husband, parents, first is it possible? Second is,
Mhm.
how is it going to be possible? And that how
Yes.
bit is when we facilitate it. And
Mm.
and very, very important, because I think education, and I will, I'll be able to vouch for that for me and my brothers and my sisters. My parents always said to us that focus on your studies. Don't worry about part-time work. Don't worry about
Okay.
having to work in the restaurant in the weekend or at a takeaway in the
Mhm.
weekend.
Mhm.
We don't want you to do any work whatsoever. Just focus on that. So
Wow.
that was them telling us, you don't even need to do part-time work. We're going to
Yeah.
do the earning. We're going to support you. You
Yeah.
just focus on that.
On studying.
So they
Mm.
did all of that. I'm sure we can give back an hour or two a week,
Yes.
to facilitate it for them, perhaps.
Mm. You touched on you cook or you cook. Wow. Are you a good cook?
Yeah. Actually, do you know, that question needs to be asked to my wife. If you ask my wife, I'm quite sure a reply would be
No.
that I could be potentially a professional chef.
Really?
I'm not just saying that because after we got married, I think, and this is, I'm going to say Allah is my witness to this. I think I've cooked 60% of the time because
Wow.
not because she doesn't want to cook. I love cooking,
Okay.
and I'm sometimes consulting with clients whilst I'm cooking.
Cooking,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
yeah,
Interesting.
and I'm giving legal advice at the same time while
Yeah.
I'm cooking. So that's yeah. So anyway, that's a different topic
Your next
altogether.
qualification might be becoming a chef.
No, I don't. I don't think so. I think that guy that kind of sells a steak for about a few £1,000 or whatnot.
Oh, yeah, Salt Bay.
Salt Bay, yeah. If there
Uh-huh.
was a kind of a Bengali Salt Bay,
That would be you.
and if I could, and I could sell a kind of a Bengali kurma and pulao for £10,000, yeah, I'm up
Oh
for
my God.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Listen, we'll talk about business
Can you
opportunities
imagine though that
later.
I would actually be called Lobon Bay? That doesn't even sound right.
No, you'd be
Yeah,
Lobon Bai.
yeah. So
Bengalis would change
yeah.
it, right? Lobon Bai, okay? Oh,
Oh, we've
brilliant.
gone off topic again, haven't we?
Again, I know it just naturally happens somehow. We've got a few people who have commented online. We've got Josh who said great topic and it's well presented. We've got Sultana who's saying great topic. Anan, he's saying amazing, well done for raising awareness. Learning never stops. I agree with that one. Cypher is saying, I think my parents are too far gone in life to experience this now, but it's an excellent topic. Josh, I think we've already touched on this, but I'm going to read out his question anyway. Good question. How do motivation and inspire parents to life learning? What can we do more? So we've already kind of covered that. And we've got Shamima. He's saying good job and keep it up. So obviously our whole reason of being here is to raise awareness and to kind of give that one person that one little thing or one little thought to go away with. And if they put it into practice, great. And if they don't, at least it's a thought and it's raising that awareness. So on your closing note, because we are kind of getting towards the end of my hour, what would you like to say to our audience today? And how would you continue inspiring them?
I think
A professional logo is very important for your business because a logo expresses the company's identity. If the logo is not meaningful and attractive, then it is impossible for your company to provide information about your company services to the targeting customers. Our company is the only company that can offer you quality, affordable, professional logos at the lowest prices. So without delay, create a professional logo for your company today.
I think the advert answered that question for me. There we are.
I'm sorry about that. You literally got cut off. So if we go back to the question, how would you continue inspiring our community, and what would you like to say to them before we leave?
Yeah, I think, look, if even one person after listening to this program was to start that conversation with their parents, then it's been worth having this discussion. And I've always found that the easiest way, and trust me, our Bangladeshi parents are not easy to convince. Yeah, it's going to
No.
take a bit of work, and it could take a little while, but stay at it and keep at it. And one of the easiest ways to do it is sacrifice some of your time. If necessary, sit on a course with them, do an online course with them, so they don't feel isolated. They don't give up after the first
Mhm.
shot at it. And then, and it doesn't have to be anything big. It could be a very short course. It could even be a tajweed course. Many of our parents would love to learn how to recite the Quran. I'm just going to, you know, my father, obviously, he was an army man. He spent
Mhm.
all his life in the army. He joined at the age of 14,
Wow.
having bumped up his age to 18, the Royal Indian Army, the British Army at that
Mhm.
time. So he never got a chance of a formal education.
Mhm.
So in his late 60s,
Mm.
he then expressed a desire to learn the Quran
Oh wow.
properly with
Yeah.
tajweed. I mean, obviously, he could recite the Quran, but with tajweed. And we
Mhm.
encouraged him. And a teacher used to come home and, like, he would then, after the teacher's gone, read back to us. And because we gave that time, before he passed away, he actually managed to master the recitation of the Quran, even
Wow.
at that late
That's
age.
amazing. Yeah.
Um, if we give them the support, if we give them that nurturing, just
Mhm.
like they gave to us, anything is possible.
And I suppose as they get older, our roles reverse, so we then have to take on that role of parenting our parents in that sense, isn't it? So
Absolutely.
yes. So thank you so much for joining me today, for sharing your knowledge, your experiences. I'm sure there's a lot that people didn't know about you, because often people refer to you as the host or the presenter or the barrister, but you've got so much knowledge and experience behind you. And hopefully after your PhD, we'll all find out what Siri and all these other AI, artificial intelligence groups are doing to us. They're probably listening to us right now as we speak. So
Well, I'll tell you what my challenge is. My challenge is to finish all my education before my son starts his education.
and that's
Yeah.
in 2 years, is that?
It's in just over 3 years. So after that, I'm not allowed anymore. I need to focus on them.
Maybe you guys can go to university together then.
Again,
Father-son duo. But yeah, inshallah, someone somewhere will be listening, and they'll be inspired and motivated. And if it's not them that's going back to study or learning as such, they'll probably be encouraging someone to continue learning. And I'm sure from what the responses that I'm getting privately as well, everyone's like, "Oh, this is great! You're raising so much awareness. We've never thought about it like this. We never think about our parents and what is it that they want to learn. We're always thinking about us." So it's great to already see that response. So from our discussions today, that we can see that education doesn't have an age. Education and knowledge can be sought in every aspect of life. It just doesn't have to be through like academia. Um, so, my dear viewers, I'm going to switch to Bangla for a little bit. So, আমরা যে খালি কলেজ এন্ড ইউনিভার্সিটি গেলে যে লেখাপড়া করতাম বা ওটা যে লেখাপড়া এটা আমরা হইয়া না, আমরা হইয়া যে লেখাপড়া সব ধরনের আছে। So maybe even gardening করতে আপনি কি বলা পাই, maybe cooking করতে বলা পাই, short courses আছে যে সব জিনিসের পিছনে একটা সায়েন্স আছে, একটা থিওরি আছে। আমরা যদি থিওরি ওটা শিখলাই, then maybe even আমরা গার্ডেনিং আমরা বুঝতাম পারমু যে আমার ই গাছ খালি মরি যায় এখানে। ও জায়গা তৈলে ওকে মরতো না, because ই গাছের অত রইদর দরকার নাই, অত সেওয়ার দরকার নাই। So just understanding the science behind it, আমরার হবিজ যেটা আছে, হবিজ ওর লাগিও আমরা লেখাপড়া করতাম পারমু। যে আমরা যে খালি ডাক্তার হইতাম, টিচার হইতাম, ব্যারিস্টার হইতাম, কত মানুষ আছেন ব্যারিস্টার হইয়াও আবার রান্দিরা। So এটা there's other hobbies in there. So, yeah, education is also like learning to use a smartphone. সো এক সময় আছিল যে আমার আব্বাই ফয়লা আবার স্মার্টফোন দেখে হইছিল ইগু কিতা লই আইছে ইগু ফোন হইব কিলা ইগু বাটন হই so when we showed him he was like oh amazed you know how far and quickly technology had moved and it was such a you know eye opener to him so আমরা ইভেন হিকতাম ফার্মু যে ইন্টারনেট খেলা ইউজ করতাম ইন্টারনেট খেও বা খামল লাগি ইউজ করে খেও বালা খামল লাগি ইউজ করে সো আমরা মেবি ইউটিউবও জিনিসও দেখতাম ফার্মু maybe even Facebook there'll be news there'll be things on there that we can learn to use for our own knowledge um, so আমরার হবিজ একটা আছে একটা নিয়েও আমরা এডুকেটেড হইতাম পারি আমরা একজনে আরেকজনরে সাপোর্ট করতাম পারমু যে নতুন কিছু শিখি বা কেউ হয়তো মেবি এডুকেশন স্টার্ট করছেন বাট ফিনিশ করতে পারছেন না বিকজ মেবি লাইফের কত যত প্রবলেম আছে সামটাইমস আমরা স্টপ হওয়া লাগে উই হ্যাভ টু টেক এডুকেশনাল ব্রেক টানটানরে আমরা মোটিভেট করতাম যে গো ব্যাক টু ইট ডু বেটার এডুকেশন ডাজন্ট এন্ড সো আমরা যদি লেখাপড়ি করিয়া যদি আমরা নলেজ থাকে আমরা চেষ্টা করতাম যে এই নলেজ আমরা আরো জনরে দিতাম পারমুনি সো আমি যদি একটা কোর্স করি আমি একটা জিনিস শিখি আমি যদি আরো জনরে একটা ব্যাক দিতাম পারি দেন অফকোর্স দ্যাটস আ ফর্ম অফ চ্যারিটি অ্যাজ ওয়েল যে আমি যে শিখছি যে খালি আমার লাগে আমার ক্যারিয়ার প্রোগ্রেশন করতাম অফকোর্স it doesn't end there's always ways to help people so কেউ যদি বয়স ইয়াও লেখাপড়া করতে চায় নতুন কিছু শিখতে চায় আমরা তারারে লইয়া আসতাম না কোনো শরম দিতাম না আমরা এনকারেজ করতাম সো ওটা আমরা সবে we need to bear that in mind and remember শিকার কোনো শেষ নাই কোনো এজ নাই so viewers bala থাকুকা and I'll see you again on Our Voice with Amina where there's no stigma no shame only on Relax Radio Bangla
সকাল দুপুর সন্ধ্যা রাতে তোমার আমার কথা হবে রিল্যাক্স রেডিও বাংলায় রিল্যাক্স রেডিও বাংলা